Jolene is my fellow country person from Singapore. She's the founder and CEO of Urban Tiller in Singapore. It is dedicated to its mission of reimagining what next generation food supply chains can look like in cities. Urban Tiller is Asia's first integrated farm-to-table agri-tech startup that delivers fresh produce within 8 hours of harvest. The business is committed to supporting sustainable agricultural methods and smallholder farmers, giving consumers a truly safe and sustainable way to eat directly from the source. While in the space of agri-logistics, Urban Tiller also focuses on integrated customer experiences that provides farmers with real-world data and support with increasing the efficiency and sustainability of agricultural practices in cities. Urban Tiller was founded in Singapore in August 2020 and subsequently commenced operations in Hyderabad, India in December of that year. They are looking forward to growing to 20 more cities in the Asia Pacific and South Asia in the coming years. So Jolene graduated from the Yale NUS College and UWC of the Adriatic and entered the agri-food space after organizing a series of programs in agri-food tech in a previous education tech venture. So Jolene, please do share with us, what led you to the whole agri-tech food sector?
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me. Really excited. To TJ's question, what led me into the agri-food sector was COVID, right? That's basically what happened. I think behind the introduction that TJ gave, what's missing is also that it was a very, very unexpected journey for me. I had left my corporate job, I think sometime in February 2020, without any idea what was going to happen. And that was when I committed myself again to education as a venture. That was the first time I turned entrepreneur. And over there, it really became an effort of thinking about how young people see the working world and see different industries. And now, given that climate change and sustainability are such a huge part of our conversation every day, my team in that startup, we saw the opportunity to bring real world industry partners to work with students to understand what real world jobs in CSR, ESG really look like, and the opportunity and challenges that really face people in my generation in the next 10 to 20 years to come. And that was really how I started talking to the farmers, the food tech people, the VCs, people who are innovating in the space and trying to play a part in this really age-old industry of agriculture, and also how it's fitting into more cosmopolitan city consumption centers that we see right now in Asia. So Singapore and Asia are sitting on a food crisis. We have 30 billion mouths to feed. And I think that's going to be really, really interesting in how we innovate to become a little bit more sustainable, more customer-centric, and also to be tech-enabled to ensure that the livelihoods of our farmers and our customers are fair and equal.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that quick sharing. I'm sure our participants will be, eager to hear more later. You have brought tech into a traditional, I would call it a traditional sector, that has seen really much change in recent years. What vision do you have for your business and your sector? And I guess along the lines of, the practicality and advice, in your journey as an entrepreneur, what advice do you think you can also give the aspiring entrepreneurs venturing into traditional sectors? I know it's a bit of a long shot, tall order, but I think we would love to hear your thoughts on this.
No worries. Thank you so much. I think that's a really good place to start. Agriculture as a sector is old, but it has continued to evolve, right? So I think one thing that we notice is that a lot of people are trying to bring tech into agriculture. Over the journey that I've had, what I've noticed is that it's very difficult to bring tech into agriculture if you start as a tech startup, if you start as a tech player who intends to sell it as a service, who intends to offer something to farmers that they may not even need, right? So I think a lot of my journey was focused on really understanding what the farmers needed, what the stakeholders were doing, what they looked like, what they needed, but also understanding the difficulties to adopting tech. right? And I think this is a really good point. A lot of the mentors along the way and people I've spoken to, you realize that smallholder farmers, especially in Asia and around the world really, a lot of the time, it's not that they don't want to use tech, but getting buy-in from them to actually use tech and integrate tech in their business requires so much effort, right? One being the cost of paying someone for technology that they don't know whether or not will work. Most of the time, they already are very busy running their own operation, trying to get things done, trying to keep costs low. And agriculture as a business overall has always had the problem of cost and price transparency. So with us, I think a lot of it is really realizing that the main pain point is that you need to first add value to their livelihoods. And you need to understand how different smallholder farmers have very different priorities. For example, in emerging markets in Asia, you have more than, I think, 55 million smallholder farmers, of which sometimes 50 to 60% could be women, right? And you need to think about, I think what I like to think about, age-appropriate, culturally appropriate, gender-appropriate tech, and what kind of value you're actually adding to them, in which part of their activities, how do you actually sort of maximize that kind of impact that you're adding to someone. For Urban Tiller, I think what we tried to do is that, look, we realized the problem was that smallholder farmers often didn't get reliable offtake from either supermarkets or other retailers, but actually creating a model where you are going to them every single day and you promise that, look, don't worry, here's a lot of data that we have about how people are buying, what your crops, what kind of feedback your crops are receiving, being able to then say, look, it's all a problem of financing, right? When you come down to it and you're able to offer that kind of buyback and that kind of offtake, what you're able to do is then to have leverage with the farmers to say, hey, this batch of kale, this batch of lettuce didn't seem to be growing so well. Could we actually sort of offer an IoT system to link up to your farm and then sort of learn in real time how to help you farm more efficiently, more effectively, and that actually gives you real value back. So I think every sector works like this to a certain degree, right? When you're trying to support smaller businesses, smaller holders, there needs to be a very, very good understanding of their daily pain points and not just developing a product that focus on what you think might be good for them and what you think your technology could be used for. And I think that's been a very humbling journey. As an entrepreneur, that happens on both sides, right? I work with the farmers and then I also work with the customers. At first, the idea was crazy. The idea was, okay, let's deliver within 8 hours of harvest. What kind of, as Clay Christensen would say, what kind of job are you doing for your customer, right? And for us, it was really the fact that there was no access to on-demand fresh produce, like truly, truly fresh produce. And there was no one else in the market giving you a benchmark of when your food was harvested, where it was coming from. If you go to the supermarket, there's no differentiation between what's grown by a local farmer versus what was imported over thousands of miles or grown in a situation which was not ideally sustainable, clean, traceable, safe, and things like that. So creating value for the customer was a different conversation. It was that, look, you're paying top quality for produce that looks like vegetables, tastes like vegetables, but is not giving you the nutritional impact that you need. We know that leafy greens, fresh produce, some of it loses up to 90% of their nutrient value within the first 24 hours of harvest. And really understanding the research behind nutrition, understanding how tech can help people make better decisions. But the last point that I'll end on is price parity. At the end of the day, there's a lot of value you can add to people, but at what cost, right? The moment you realize that customers don't pay for an idea, they pay for value actually added to their lives, that's when the conversation shifts. Most of my customers come to me and they come back again and again and they say, look, I didn't know that things grew here like that. I didn't know this was how things were done. But I buy your products because they are truly that fresh, they taste different. Now I want to have a conversation about sustainability. Now I want to understand the problem that you're solving. And now I'm trying to, really learn about where my food comes from and how I can play a part. So I think my biggest takeaway and advice to people who would like to think about a startup or a venture as a means of consumer education is to flip that question on its head. How can you give someone something to the point that they're so satisfied that they want to educate themselves? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for the fantastic sharing. I like the point that you made earlier in that sharing about not bringing a perceived solution to that sector, but really listening, being a bit more entrenched in the ground so that whatever solution you develop really meets the need. I think it's something for entrepreneurs, startups to take note of.